Welcome back, everyone, to the discussion about child support law with attorney Sherell Carter. And Sherell, why don't you take it from here to talk about the part two, which is what about lawyers and the child support office? Do you need a lawyer to go to the child support office? Should you have a lawyer? What are the pros and the cons? Take it away.
One of the second, I guess, biggest thing that I see in a lot of my family law cases is, clients coming to me about, the whole child support aspect, and I'm asking them like, why are you coming to me now? Why didn't you come to me before you got the OAG involved, right? And often they say, hey, I didn't know, right? I didn't know I needed an attorney. I didn't know, like, why go get an attorney when I can just go to the Office of Attorney General and do it for free, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what this video is more about. Why would you get an attorney as opposed to just trying to take on the OAG yourself, right? And so I would say one of the biggest things that I normally tell my clients that I'm not an advocate for the OAG being involved in the case if they don't have to is a lot of things are unnecessary from my personal experience of dealing with the OAG in some of these cases. First of all, you may start off with the case being through an OAG. Maybe you go and put yourself on child support, or the other party starts an OAG case and you get on child support, right? And so let's say you get this notice and you do contact an attorney, right? And one of the benefits about using an attorney, especially when the child support court 4D, OAG, or DRO, whatever the agency is called, is involved, is the opportunity to be able to leverage in mediation, right? I think most people have heard or are aware of that most cases never really go to trial, right? There's a small percentage that do. Most of them settle. And so if you have an attorney representing your rights, knowing what the law is, it allows you to be able to get a little bit more, maybe a lot more in some instances, if you have an attorney representing you as opposed to just, letting the child support office do the whole case for you. And you might compare it to another friend and you're like, hey, like I didn't get that. I didn't get that opportunity, right? And one of the biggest things is the rights and duties that are pointed, right? So I
Well,
want to.
before you segue over to the rights and duties, we have to be clear that the attorney general doesn't represent the parties,
That's what I
right?
was going to say. They don't represent the mom or the dad, right? They're there for the sole interest of the child in support, right? They want to make sure that there's proper means for the child so the child doesn't become a ward on the state. And that in the previous video, as we discussed, if there is um, any issues where the child has been a ward on the state, CHIPS, TANDF, Medicaid, food stamps, or whatever it happened to be, that somebody is responsible for reimbursing the state for those
Yeah.
funds.
Yeah, and some AGs would actually say they don't even represent the child. Their interest is solely to represent the state of Texas and the
There you go.
law and to enforce the law. And the law is supposed to help protect kids, right? And so indirectly, the AG should be trying to help make sure that the children's best interests are protected. But that doesn't always happen. But what about rights and duties? So if you go without a lawyer, are you gonna have a fool for a client, as Lincoln would say?
I would say if you're going to the child support court to get these orders done, one of the biggest things that I've noticed that is not apportioned properly to typically the non-custodial parent, which is usually the fathers, but that's not always the case these days, is
Yeah.
the rights and duties. And so in the Texas Family Code, it's 153.132. There are certain duties that if the OAG does the order, that they typically exclusively give to mom, right? So you as a father or the non-custodial parent, whoever you are, that's not the primary of the child, will not get these benefits, right? And obviously, one of the bigger ones is, I mean, what you could typically be on any order where the person would be designated the primary right to establish the residency. But what if you're an active father, right? What if you want to be able to make decisions on regarding like medical, dental, and surgical? I say OAG, it's OAG here in Texas, but the child support courts typically give those invasive procedure rights solely to the, I'm going to say the mom or the primary custodian, right? The mom will or primary custodian will have the right to consent for psychiatric and psychological treatment. So what if you're involved and you notice that the child is acting out? maybe there may be some contentions between, mom and dad not getting along, and it's, rolling over to the child, and dad may say, look, I want her to see a therapist, right?
Yeah.
And if mom says no, and the OAG did that order, guess what? The answer is no. Dad doesn't
Yeah.
have a right for that.
So basically, the 153.132 rights, we call them sole conservatorship rights. Like if you get sole custody or sole conservatorship in Texas, you get all those rights automatically. But that's not typically the presumed best thing for a child. We want both parents to be making these decisions, not just one. But if you have a case where you have a parent who's dangerous, or you have a parent who was never there, or who doesn't even know the child, then okay, that might make sense. One parent should have all those rights. But what if, like you were saying, you have another parent who wants to be involved, who wants to be making decisions? You're correct. The Attorney General's standard orders are going to give all of them to one parent, the custodial parent. That's just what happens. And most people don't know that, right? They don't challenge it. They don't have a lawyer, so they don't know the nuances, and they don't know how they can push back a little bit. And so in my experience, if I have a dad and he really wants to be active and he wants to be making decisions for education, for medical, psychological, well, he needs to push back and maybe countersue and ask, look, I got to share these rights too. I don't want it to just be a cookie cutter standard order that has one parent making all the decisions. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
and don't forget, like, the passport, right? And the
Passports as
passport is
well.
in
Yep.
there. These days, people travel. Like, you want to go on cruises, you're going out of town, all these kind of places. And in those orders, and with that being stated, part of that is mom will have, or once again, I say keep saying mom, but it is typically the mother that is in these situations, but it's going to be applicable to whoever is the primary or custodial parent. And so they'll have the right to apply, renew, and maintain passport. So if you're trying to go somewhere with the child and you don't have the right order, then it's not happening, right? And so I do want to preface this that, like Max said, this is uh, may make sense in a lot of instances, but the day and age of what I'm seeing, and if somebody's reaching out to me, these fathers, they want to be a part of their lives. There's a movement of no deadbeat dad, hashtag no deadbeat dad over here, right? They want to be a part. They want to be at every game. They want to be at all swim lessons. They want to know what's going on in school. They want to be there, and I love that for this generation. I love that for this environment, and I'm definitely a promoter of that, right? All too often we see so many things happening with our children when the father is not involved, and sometimes they might not be the best parent, right? Sometimes they might need a little bit of guidance. They might have to do some parenting classes, but to have a want and a need to even be there, I think that's the first start, right? And so that's where your lawyer comes in. Your lawyer, if you hire a private attorney as opposed to going to the child support office, can fight so you can have these rights, jointly, with the other parent. And that's one of the biggest things that I would admonish, for most fathers to take into consideration. If you're going to go to the child support office, or, hey, I don't know if I have the money, you can't afford not to hire a private attorney if you want to be a hands-on parent, a part of your child's life. That's the biggest thing I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
A lot money is a big issue, right? Find you an attorney that'll work with you if they have them out there. I know I'm one of them, right? Try to help you through your situation, understanding the finances. There's a number of ways that you can work these cases to where you can get legal representation and get the help that you need. But I am not a preponderant of my father's or any other parent that's not the non-custodial parent going up against the OAG on your own. Get you an attorney to help represent your interests. And I would definitely say, when fighting in regards to child support or conservatorship, definitely want to lawyer up and get you a private attorney.
Yes. So what's the next topic?
So with that, we're going to talk about 50-50 arrangements, right? And so with that being said, a lot of people don't know that if you can manage to agree with the other party, you don't have to pay child support. It's not a requirement, right? And that's another thing about getting an attorney. More often than not, we're able to settle these cases in mediation, and you can get so much more in a mediation when you have a private attorney representing your interests than you ever could if the Office of Attorney General or the Child Support Office did your case without one.
Okay. So before we get there, how can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Once again, you guys can go and reach me at my website. It's justicebycarter.com. On there, you'll be able to find my information to locate me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
All right. See you in part three. Take care.